"Get off my land." That is what she screamed, standing on my porch like I was some trespasser in the very cabin my dad built with his own hands. Clipboard raised like a weapon violation notice waving like she was serving papers from God himself. I thought it was a joke, a bad one, until I realized no, she meant it. She was dead serious, claiming my property as her own. That was the moment I knew moving back here wasn't going to be the peaceful homecoming I imagined. This cabin by the lake wasn't just some structure. It was my childhood, my father's legacy, the smell of pine sap and morning fog rising off the water. I'd inherited it 6 months back, but only now had the time to settle in carrying boxes across creaking porch boards that had held up since the 1960s. I wanted quiet mornings, maybe some fishing like Dad used to do. Instead, I got Rebecca Walsh, late 40s blonde ponytail pulled so tight it looked painful jogging outfit like she was marching into battle. She told me straight-faced that all lakefront visible from her community fell under aesthetic compliance. Her words, not mine. She waved a $75 fine in my face like she was handing me a speeding ticket. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I showed her my utility letter, my deed. Everything proving I was outside HOA jurisdiction. She barely glanced at it before dismissing it as an administrative oversight. Then she stormed off muttering about correcting boundaries. That should have been the end, but I had a feeling it was just the opening shot. 3 days later, I walked out in my pajamas, coffee in hand, and nearly spilled it when I saw a giant yellow barrier stretched across my lake access. Anchored directly to the steel ring my dad bolted into the shoreline 50 years ago. It looked like something a construction crew would use, except there was no construction, just an HOA claiming my dock like they'd ordered it from Amazon. That's when I remembered Dad's toolbox. Inside, under rusted tackle and old survey maps, were his bolt cutters. Heavy, solid, the kind of tool that solved problems without paperwork. I didn't hesitate. The first cable snapped with a satisfying ping, the barrier sagging as the current pulled it downstream. And right then, footsteps. Angry, fast, too familiar. Rebecca, with 2 board members in tow, stormed down my path. "You're destroying community safety equipment," she shouted, her face cycling through shades of red. I held up the cutters calm as I could manage and said, "I'm removing trespassing equipment from my property." She switched tactics so fast it was almost funny. First authority, then environmental concern, then bribery. She literally pulled out a checkbook and offered me $200 to move my anchor ring closer to shore. Like I was haggling at a farmer's market instead of standing on the land my family owned. When I refused, she upped the drama, claiming the anchor ring was vital fire safety infrastructure. Lies, obvious lies, but said with so much confidence her lackeys nodded like it was gospel. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about aesthetics. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. How far would she go? I didn't have to wait long to find out. The harassment changed flavor. Drones buzzing outside my bedroom windows at night, red camera lights blinking like sniper sights. They only showed up between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., organized, deliberate like clockwork. Sleep deprivation isn't dramatic until it's yours. My jaw ached from grinding my nerves shot. I started doubting myself. Maybe she was right. Maybe there were fire safety laws or environmental regs I didn't understand. And then Hank Miller showed up. Hank was Dad's best friend, the guy who helped build half this cabin. If anyone should have had my back, it was him. But sitting on my porch avoiding eye contact, he repeated Rebecca's talking points like they were gospel. Words like compromise, like escalation. My gut twisted. If she could flip Hank, she could flip anyone. That's when the poison of doubt really set in. What if I was wrong? What if I was the unreasonable one? For the first time, I thought about packing up, selling out, and leaving. Just walking away from Dad's legacy because one woman and her clipboard made life unbearable. But then I remembered the look on her face when she waved that checkbook. Calculating, manipulative, not concerned for safety or the environment. And I thought of Dad's voice. "Sometimes you've got to clear your own path, son." That's when I pulled out my phone and called the county fire marshal, the environmental office, anyone who could confirm the truth. And while waiting on answers, I bought a professional-grade water testing kit. If she wanted to play the environmental card, I'd beat her with real science. Turns out my water was cleaner than the HOA's. Documented, time-stamped, photographed. Better quality right off my dock than from their so-called protected access points. And once I started live-streaming my tests, neighbors began chiming in. Mrs. Henderson down the road complained about the drones keeping her grandkids awake. Mr. Garcia took photos proving the HOA's lights were aimed solely at my cabin. A retired engineer even dissected their security lighting, showing it was rigged for harassment, not safety. For the first time, I wasn't alone. So we organized. A live-stream community forum open to everyone, transparent, democratic. I presented Property Survey's utility records, my clean water results. Rebecca countered with charts, aerial photos, and speeches about collective stewardship. She was smooth, I'll give her that. People nodded along until she dropped her ace, a federal environmental emergency declaration granting HOA oversight of the whole lake. She held it up like the 10 Commandments, and for a second my stomach dropped through the floor. If that was real, I was finished. But something about it looked off. The formatting, the way she shielded it from closer inspection. So I pulled out my phone, dialed the county office right there on speaker, and read the document's reference number. The silence in that hall was thick enough to choke on. And then the official's voice came through. There is no federal environmental emergency declaration for your lake. The room exploded. Gasps, murmurs, phones buzzing as people messaged neighbors. Rebecca's face drained of color. She stammered something about administrative delays, but nobody was buying it. One board member stood up and asked point blank, "Did you forge that document?" Rebecca, she dodged, tried spinning more jargon, but it was too late. Her mask cracked. One by one, neighbors stood to tell their own stories. The woman fined for painting her dock blue. A man accused of mailbox violations even though he lived outside the HOA. People realized it wasn't just me. Rebecca had been fabricating authority for years. By the time county officials arrived, her empire of lies was in flames. They hit her with fines for tampering with safety equipment, presenting false documents, and misuse of community funds. And right there in front of everyone, they suspended her as HOA president. She gathered her folders, her fake documents, and walked out without meeting a single eye. No entourage this time. No clipboard shield, just silence and the sound of her heels on the floor. That's where it ended for me. Standing in a crowded room, not celebrating, not gloating, just breathing. For months, I'd been painted as the villain, the trespasser on my own land. Now the truth was plain for everyone to see. And if there's one thing I learned through all this, it's that power built on lies always collapses.